Abubaker Abed is a Palestinian journalist and commentator. And my friend, I would like to welcome you to the mother of all talk shows. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me over here. And yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to be good. I'm very happy to talk to you. I wish it could be in person, but yeah, this time online. Maybe the next time is going to be in person.
Yes. We'll speak in person soon. I have so many people in Ireland who have already met you and they're sending me pictures of you and them together. And Matt Kennard, I suppose one of the few actual proper journalists left in Britain, a person I admire so much, told me to get in touch with you as soon as you were coming over to Ireland, and he spoke so highly of you. But I'd
Thank you.
already been following your work. So people who don't know your work, first of all, Abubaker, can you just give us a sense of what you were doing in Gaza before the genocide, what your work was, what you were involved in, paint a picture for us before the genocide began in your hometown?
Well, I think, in my opinion, people have to understand first and foremost that there has always been horror in Gaza, even before the genocide began.
Mm.
So Gaza has not even been bleeding since October the 7th, but prior to that, and that's one of the most important points that people have to be aware of. At the same time, we, as young men in particular, were deprived, were bereft of hope even before October the 7th because the unemployment rates were exceptionally high, tuition fees were very expensive for us, and the living conditions were absolutely terrible, and they've become nightmarish once Israel started or launched its genocidal campaign in the Gaza Strip. So before the genocide, I was mainly focusing on football, and I was a football reporter. I was trying to enjoy myself as a football reporter because that's the passion that I had since I was a kid, and that's how I learned English, to be honest. And I tried
Mm.
my very best to grow, but at the same time, I was also reporting on the sporting tragedy in Gaza and in Palestine, even prior to October the 7th, because there has always been, or there have always been, crimes by the Israeli military against the sports in Gaza and around the West Bank, including the ban of movement or the restrictions that have been imposed on Palestinian athletes all across the occupied territories, and even many times before, the destruction and the attacks on football facilities in both the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. In addition to that, we have seen many times the settlements, the illegal settlements that have been built on football and sports facilities in the West Bank. But FIFA has never cared a whit about these war crimes or these crimes committed by the Israeli army over time. So I was more of a football reporter. I was a football reporter with a lot of passion and with ambitions that I really wanted to achieve because I was born into the womb of suffering, into the womb of horror. My life hasn't been just about October the 7th and this ongoing genocidal campaign by the Israeli apartheid forces. However, we've lived through four wars before: 2021, 2014, 2012, and 2008. So since I was just 6 years old, I was living through wars. And the first war that I
Mm.
lived lasted for more than 51 days. It was in the winter, and more than 5,000 people were killed in Gaza. So this kind of concentration that people are thinking about, that the Palestinians have been suffering since October the 7th in this kind of context, mustn't be taken for granted, because people have to understand prior to that. And I want to reiterate this very important feeling that I had once I set foot on the Irish territories, on which I'm so proud to be, is the fact that I have realized that I haven't lived ever in my life, and I'm not 22 years old, but I'm a 1 month old baby right now, or a month and a half old
Wow.
since I arrived here, because what I lived was beyond imagination. So that's what I was doing before October the 7th.
My God, that is powerful, man. So you say you never lived before when you were, except when you reached
Definitely,
Europe effectively. It
definitely.
was
Anyone,
that I remember
anyone,
hearing you say
anyone.
before that you all you knew was death. Could you say more about that? All you knew was death. death was something that
Because
characterized your
yeah,
life
because
there.
I survived four previous wars in Gaza. I could have been killed in any of them. I could have been killed in the past 500 or in the 560 days that I lived in the besieged territory. So I'm very lucky and very fortunate that I have survived all these massacres perpetrated by the Israeli regime over time. So I'm very lucky and consider myself very lucky. And it's the same story. Ask anyone. It's not all about me. Ask anyone who has fled Gaza. Tell them. Ask them, how do you feel right now? They will tell you that haven't been living at all in my life. I'm here in the country and I'm showing my friend through the phone when I go around in the country and I'm seeing the beauty, the green fields, the nature, the waterfalls, everything about that is a dream, something I've never seen in my life. And he's telling me, "I work like I can't believe that you are still in this world. I thought this was another world. That this was on Mars or this was on another planet." So you can just imagine what it means to be outside this country. This is my first time. People have to know this is my first time outside Gaza, and I cannot believe the magnitude, the amount of luxury people are having here, the food, the amount of food, the abundance of food everywhere, and everything here is available. You cannot be deprived of anything. You have entertainment, you have food, you have water. So there are no bad days. Since I arrived here, I never complained about anything. So people don't have to complain about anything. And I'm sorry to say this, but people here are very spoiled, so they have nothing to complain about at all. So that's what we need to realize and understand. That's what we need
Mm,
to to really realize at the moment, because this is the symptom of the ongoing Israeli or the ongoing presence and existence of the Israeli apartheid regime for the past almost 80 years that has deprived of us of everything. I cannot see my homeland. Now I left outside Gaza and I can set foot on the Irish territories. However, when I drove past occupied Palestine, particularly near Jericho, the Dead Sea, and close to the mountains of Palestine, I know I was never able to set foot on the ground. I was never able to just to relish or to behold the beauties of my homeland. So you can imagine, but here in a European country, which practically doesn't have any connections with Palestine, although because of its beautiful people that have shown extremely or extraordinary support and unwavering support over the course of the genocide. And before that, I'm not able to go and see my homeland, but here I'm able to do that. So you can just imagine the Palestinians are being marginalized, and we don't want to be dispersed. We really don't want to be dispersed at all. We want to be together. We want to go back to our homeland. That's what I'm trying to tell people all the time. So it's a
mm,
very agonizing decision. It's a very heartbreaking time for me. I'm here without my family. I've left everything behind. I don't know if I'm going to go back to my home country. So you are talking like it really hurt me. I'm not blaming you here, but it really hurt me when you said that he is in my country. You can say that this is my country. I can say the word my and add to it country. I
mm,
cannot do that. I cannot say that. I don't have the latitude that you have at the moment. So this sort of little details that, or probably the intricacies of life, are beyond what people are thinking about, because people, as I told you, have everything. What should they, what factor should really push them to think about others? So there's a huge lack, in my opinion, of common humanity among people and among the ordinary people. The people have become unbelievably selfish, and the Gaza genocide has approved of that, because it's not enough. I do appreciate the protest, I do appreciate what people are doing, but at the same time it's not enough. Governments have to listen to their people, and this is a regime that cannot be lifted or ended except by this occupation, cannot be ended except by military force. And that's what we have concluded from the ongoing genocide. We have been doing everything in our power. The Americans have been the staunchest in its support, or in their support of the Israelis, and nothing has changed that. We need a military force to stop Israel. We need a military force to stop the genocide. How many more of us should die? How many more of us should be maimed? How many more of us should be amputated. I was reporting from Gaza's hospitals. I never visited. No, I'm not going to talk about the hospitals. I'm going to talk about the streets. There is no, and I'm very responsible for what I'm saying. There is no single street in Gaza that you can walk right now, and that's an experience that I had in my time in my time or during my time in Gaza. There is no street that doesn't have any amputated people. At least you will find 3 to 4 people, particularly children amputated, 2 limbs, 4 limbs. They are suffering. They have suffered life-changing lives. Children are talking about their dreams to have, or are their limbs going to grow? Are their lives going to be restored? Are their lives going to be flourishing again? These questions, children are dreaming to have a bit of food or a bite of food. That's real. I was at the hospital last time. The last reports that I had from Gaza, children, all the ICUs at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital only had children, 5 children. One of the rooms that I was in, the ICU rooms, there were 5 children under 11 years old, one with full body burns, another with an acute lung contusion, and a third one with a spinal cord injury, a fourth one with fractures, complete fractures of their body. That's insane. That's what people are not talking about. And this is given the fact that Gaza's hospitals are absolutely defunct. They have been decimated by the Israeli military over time, and there are no hospitals working right now. And Al-Aqsa Hospital has been was for the first time just attacked by suicide drones a week ago. So the continuation of attacking, or the continued attacks on Gaza's hospitals will deteriorate or perpetuate the current situation, will make it the worst ever. So there are details behind the news that people have to understand. And that's what I'm telling people. Feel our pain. That's my message to them.
That's so beautifully put. And I couldn't agree with you more about how selfish and individualistic we have become. It's something that I was talking about earlier in the show anyway. So please tell us more about that, because as you know, there is a lovely mutual kind of thing going on between Irish and Palestinians, but we're learning so much. We are learning so much from our Palestinian friends about like what really matters in life. And I really mean that. I really mean that. And at the risk of I don't want to, unnecessarily re-traumatize you, because I'm very aware I have many Palestinian friends, and I know I have some sense of what you're going through every single day. And there's days where some of my friends want to talk, and there's other days when they don't want to talk. If I'm re-traumatizing you in any way, just tell me and we'll talk about something else. But there is a moment in your life where you have done this journalistic work that you were kind of thrust into. You had been a sports journalist, you're doing this work in Gaza, and because you're doing it so well, you become a target of the Israeli regime, and your mother comes to say something to you. And it reminded me of what a Palestinian friend said to me at one time, which was, there are no good choices for Palestinians. There really are no good choices. And your mother brought attention to the fact that you were becoming a risk for not just yourself, but your family. If you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Mothers, know what is going to happen. Mothers are not drunk. My mother, specifically in the last 2 weeks before my departure, felt that the house was going to be targeted, felt that I was going to be hunted down by the Israeli military. And her point could be approved because there were intensive smear campaigns against me and death incitements by big Israeli media personalities over these 2 weeks, claiming that I was a Hamas operative, although I never held a gun in my life. So when she came to me, when she saw me, she didn't want to compel me to leave Gaza at all, because she knew that I was very committed, that I allotted my time to giving everything to my homeland, because it's my homeland. I never wanted to leave my homeland. I literally needed, and I wished I could die just sacrificing my blood and my life for the sake of my homeland, because Palestine needs us, Gaza needs us, and that's what we want to learn, and that's how we want to live. We don't want to live a luxurious life. We don't want to live high in the hog. No, we don't want to live this life. I never want this life where I am at the moment. I can go and buy whatever I want, but I cannot find a moment of joy. So my mother, when she saw me reluctant, specifically in the last 2 days or in the last 24 hours before making a decision and telling the Irish embassy that I wanted to leave, she came to me and said, look, I have to be very honest with you. Do you think you're going to be happy if they target you here in the room and they kill you and your brothers and us? Will you be happy with that? And I said, of course no. So she continued, or she added, look, you are a harm to me and the family, and you must leave. We don't want you anymore. So you can just imagine how traumatizing this is. This sentiment, or this phrase from my mother that she told me, was something I will never forget in my life. It will haunt me forever. I cannot really, wherever I go, I still think about this sentence from my mother. I know that she didn't mean it, but she wanted to help me. And I honestly never cared about my safety. I honestly never cared about myself, because as I told you, I really wanted to die for my homeland. And I was able to leave Gaza 3 months into the genocide, 4 months into the genocide. I had that long-standing offer to flee Gaza many times, multiple times, multiple occasions, and several occasions. But I always said no, no, no. But this time I was forced to do it. I was forced to make such a terrible decision, such a very, very agonizing decision that is still on to me. So what else do you have in this life when your mother tells you so? What else do you have in this life when you are unable to hug your mother? There are children here, with all due respect to the Irish people, there are children here who right now complaining about their parents, and their parents are dictating them to do this and this. That's absolutely insane. I'm seeing youngsters and children, they are quite fussed, or they're quite annoyed by their parents. I don't know why. Like, I'm telling them, I wish I could have a mother. I wish I could have a father to hug, a brother, a sister, whomever. Like, I do want one of my family members to be here, but it seems totally unfeasible, unfortunately, because the crossings are being closed, and I got out of Gaza under the most unimaginable circumstances. I was interrogated. I was interrogated by the Israeli military. I was checked, and I was going to be targeted by them at the Israeli border, except the intervention by the Irish embassy. So these circumstances that I'm detailing to you right now are absolutely very, very hard to absorb. But here I am trying, but there's nothing. Believe me, it's very traumatizing. I know it's very traumatizing, but right now here in Ireland, there's nothing that traumatizes me more than seeing an Irishman drinking a Coke or going to a BDS Target company or shop here in Ireland, like Tesco and like Galaxy, Mars, whatever. So there's nothing that traumatizes me more than seeing an Irishman drinking a Pepsi or a Coke. There's nothing at all, because they are drinking our blood. And it can't, like, if there's a rule, if this country is the government is still, it still needs to do more. But if there are right rules here, those people who are drinking cocaine all over the globe, they shouldn't at all. I wouldn't be happy at all. The Irish people would never be happy. A century ago, if I came during the British colonialism and the British occupation of Ireland, and Coca-Cola was funding the British regime to colonize Ireland, and I was coming here drinking Cokes in front of the Irish people, they would never accept that. But yes, here we are as Palestinians, seeing Irish people, a lot of Irish people, and the companies and the shops trading with Coca-Cola and other BDS targets. That's the most traumatizing that I've ever had since arriving here.
Here. I couldn't agree with you more. Something I was going to ask you as well is to do with the fact that I know, listening to you in other interviews with some of whom friends of mine who have spoken to you, and I get the sense from you as well tonight, you've struggled with malnourishment and bronchitis and, physical effects of doing what you have been doing in Gaza. But I never ever get the sense from you of being a victim I get an unbelievable sense of defiance in you in spite of the trauma and in spite of the sadness. And I remember you saying before as well that you're passionate about holding the people who have done this to you and your family and your people, holding them accountable. That's something that's very, very important for you. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I will never forget anyone who has justified the killing of my people. I will never forget or forgive the people who have given a pass to the Israeli military for their crimes against my aunt whose family has been wiped out. I will never forgive the people who have been justifying and giving consent for the Israelis to continue and speed up its genocide in Gaza and for the starvation they are applying or they are inflicting upon my people right now. I'll never forget them. So I will try my very best to hold them accountable for what they have done. I will never back down. I will never back down at all. I will continue doing my work here, and I will continue exposing them and exposing those major media channels, including RTE and including the Irish Times, for the many times they have really done the very disgusting work they have done trying to justify the ongoing starvation after 600 days of live stream genocide and well documented genocide, after 600 days of the immolation of babies and of the starvation, the stark starvation of babies and children, and the rage of entire families from the several record. I don't know how those people have the courage or have the sense to just justify what is going on. So these people are not afraid or are not worried about their humanity, but they're more worried about their wages because they are afraid that their wages could be docked, and that is one of the things that we must be aware of. So when someone doesn't care about their humanity, but they care about the wages, then they don't have the goal in their life. They don't have anything to do in their life. They're no longer humans, and that's what we need to do, because it's not important, because those media channels are gullible and they're very credulous because they believe everything coming out of the lying mouths of the Israeli military and the lies that have been debunked since the start or the outbreak of Israel's genocidal war on the Strip. And we've seen that, and I myself debunked many lies. I remember a couple of months ago, a month before leaving Gaza, when an Israeli tank shelled a UN compound, and I was there in the place, and that shell flew over my head as I was in the car and I was moving to Khan Yunis in the southern parts of the Strip. I remember that, and I saw the shell. Then the Israeli military published a statement saying that they were not responsible for shelling the UN compound, and this shell killed an international humanitarian and injured 5 others. Then I went in one of the interviews saying that no, that this was an Israeli shell, and 2 weeks later the Israeli army admitted that it was them who shelled the UN compound. And many times before, about the Israeli backed or the Israelis backed criminal gangs and looters, I also exposed them many times and risked my life, because to verify anything in Gaza is to put your life on the line, and that's what I was trying, because there was nothing more important to me than just exposing the exploitation and the profiteering that is happening in front of my eyes. I refuse to live in humiliation. I'm always a very well dignified young man. I'm always very hopeful, and I always see hope. I never lost hope, and as I said all the time, I wish I could live the whole genocide. I wish I were in Gaza right now talking to you, but these are the circumstances that I was plunged into, and I didn't have any choice except that. But I always wanted to do something. I always wanted to risk my life for my homeland. I never wanted to back down. We're not those ones who have backed down, because we are the indigenous people here. We are the ones who have the spirits, who have the hearts, who have their hearts, their sweat, and everything about their lives, their memories, even if they are right now buried under the rubble, we can really recover them, as we have recovered the bodies of our loved ones and of those of our families who have been killed and murdered by Israelis. We have been able to recover and pull out their bodies from under the rubble. We can pull out our memories, we can relive again, we can rebuild Gaza, and we can march together until the liberation of a free Palestine. We will never back down, we will never surrender, because that's that's the reality. Palestinians are so hopeful and so hopeful. The young generations will never think of surrendering. We will continue to hope, we will see hope, and we will continue to endure, even if the entire international community has let us down. And that's what we need to do. And since we are talking about those international media outlets, we need to remind people that if those media channels had some heart or some humanity, because they are, of course, soulless right now, and they've been always soulless, trying to justify the killing of innocent children and women, they will be held accountable. But if they really did their job, this genocide would have been stopped since day one and since the first days. But there has been, because this kind of journalism, and it's not journalism, it's propaganda unleashed and written by those complicit and very complicit and unforgivable media outlets, has made for the Israelis to continue, or has given the consent for the Israelis to continue their genocide, which is still ongoing. And we are still seeing right now, and we shouldn't be fooled by the kind of repairing or washing that is being right now done by those big figures in the Western media, or the Western media channels, that they're trying to wash their hands from their complicity over time. We shouldn't be fooled by that, because they will never be forgiven, whatever, no matter what they are doing right now, and they will be doing, because they have been complicit. They have been liable for the killing, the mass murder and starvation of people, because I lived through 2 starvation periods before, and that's the 3rd time, and I left almost 1/3 of the starvation period that is going right now. And that's one of the reasons why I left, because there were times I couldn't stand on my feet, and there were times, imagine that there is someone right now who is justifying the killing of my people. How would you want me to forgive them? How would you want me to forget them? They are simply as equal as those who are committing the war crimes. There is no difference between the two, because when you give a justification and you give the pass to those people to commit these war crimes, they are simply unforgivable. And that's why we will continue, and we are made of stern stuff. We will never be beaten. And I promise, and I'm seeing that as I'm talking to you right now, that Palestine will be free. We will never. And we will see hope in those people who are trying to fight for humanity, who are trying to save their humanity.
Inshallah, brother. Inshallah. Abubaker, it was an absolute honor to speak to you. And I spoke at the start about the fact that so many in the West have lost our humanity. And listening to you speak there, I feel like you embody what we have lost. You could teach us what we have lost, but I just wonder, do we deserve it? I just wonder, do we even deserve that
There are
instruction
some
from you?
people who deserve it. There are some people who deserve it. There are some people who haven't stopped since day one, supporting us and showing us the kind of solidarity, and they have risked their lives. There are some people who were keen not to lose their humanity, and we appreciate these people. We see hope in them, and that's what I always have said in Gaza, that to seek out beauty is to be a human. To seek out hope is to be a human. These people share this hope with us, share this beauty with us. And no matter what this kind of destruction or what scale of destruction is in Gaza right now, because Gaza is gutted, the people are gutted, we are devastated, we're very devastated by what has happened. But the compass in Gaza, and Gaza will never be lost as long as we have people like you. Those people who are not stopping, at all, and they are very keen and cannot really stop at all, just trying to tell us that we are here, but that they are behind us in every step of the way. That's why we continue to endure, as I told you, and our endurance is just a light and reflected by your hope and by your support. That's what people have to understand. That's why you deserve it. And I know that there hasn't been much enough. I know that it is your governments who are responsible and liable for what is going on. I know that you're cursing your politicians for what has been happening, but hopefully that this protest and this wave and this global solidarity and boycott campaign will really pay off in the end. And we need the military force to stop Israel. We need to make sure that this apartheid regime is going to be dismantled, because as the Irish people here saying, those on the protest and the demonstrations, they always say it, and it's very clear, and I agree with that, that Gaza It's not occupied. Palestine is not occupied. It's just physically occupied. But the people around the world are mentally occupied, and they have been mentally occupied for the past 80 years. So the liberation of Palestine will not secure only the territorial liberation, but will also secure the mental liberation of the entire world. That's what people have to understand.